Welcome back to part 2 of the collaboration series between kettlebell workout videos and myself. I am Colleen Conlon. This is the golden standard, and I am your technique coach for those of you who are figuring out how do I use these kettlebells for the first time. So today what's going to happen is I'm going to break down for you the goblet squat, which is an excellent exercise to learn how to do right out the get-go. Now, I think when it comes to kettlebells, especially when you're watching people who have been using them for years, a lot of this stuff, it looks really simple, but there's a lot of nuance when it comes to the details, and that's what we're gonna go through together today. But first, I wanna give you the demonstration so you know what it is we are working on. Voila, that is our kettlebell goblet squat. So first things first, we need to talk about tension, we need to talk about breathing, and then we need to start talking about alignment, pathway. What will happen from there is we will start practicing how to do this together. So over the next, I would say, we'll probably be together for roughly 30 minutes. I want you to grab a towel. I want you to take your shoes off. If you are somebody who needs to train wearing orthotics, or if you are in a space where you are required to keep a shoe on, a minimalist shoe is perfect. And other than that, go bare. So when it comes to creating tension, I want you to try this. And if you were live with me last week when we were talking about the deadlift, it's going to be very similar. But I want you to find yourself standing on the floor with your feet hip-width distance apart. And as you're here, just notice what you feel. I don't really feel anything. But what happens if you actively spread your toes out? What happens if you actively think about pressing your big toes and your pinky toes down? What happens if you think about externally rotating from your hips? Now, when I instantly do that action, I think about having a band wrapped around my thigh, and the band is being pulled out and back. The outer portions of my glutes, they begin to contract. Can you feel that? Take a breath. Again, your feet are hip-width distance apart. Big toes, pinky toes pressing down. From here, you're externally rotating from your hips. Notice what you feel in the sides of the glutes. And then notice how that feels throughout the entirety of your legs. They start to feel kind of hot, right? They start to feel like they're working. This is us creating lower body tension, and we're gonna need this as we squat today. Make sense? If you're with me so far, give me a thumbs up. Okay, so part number 2. As we're externally rotating from our hips, I want you to think about almost pulling your upper inner thighs in, okay? Now you might start to feel some tension back in your hamstrings. It might feel a little bit more like it's in between your inner thighs, closer a little bit more towards the back. And I want you to just hang tight here for a moment. What does this feel like? To create this energy, even though you're not in motion. It's different than just hanging out, right? Okay, shake it out. Let's reset. Let's try to find that one more time together. So my feet are hip-width distance apart. Big toes, pinky toes pressing down. I externally rotate from my hips. I can feel the sides of my glutes contract. I pull my upper inner thighs in. There's tension all throughout my legs. There's tension throughout my glutes. We're gonna need this as we go up and down in the squat. Okay, next piece. We need upper body tension. So if you have a towel or a sweatshirt, anything that you can actively rip apart, that's what I want you to grab right now. Again, think about just hanging out. If I'm hanging out here right now, there's not a lot happening in my upper body. But what happens when you hold your hands next to each other with your object? What happens when you pull your shoulders down? When you pull your shoulders back, and when you rip your towel apart. Just hang out here for a moment. Notice what you notice. Notice what starts to tighten up. Notice what starts to feel different in your upper body. And shake it out. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is when I do those 3 actions, back here, it looks a little bit different. So if I'm just hanging out versus shoulders down, shoulders back, and I rip my towel apart, you see how everything gets tighter? That's what we're going after. And I will tell you, from my coaching experience and from my own experience, if you have never been cued in how to engage your lats, it is going to be something that takes some practice, and it takes some awareness of keeping the mind focused in on that area. So if that feels like it's not quite clicking just yet today, that's okay. Let's try it again. I hold my towel, I pull my shoulders down, I pull my shoulders back, I rip the towel apart. Let's hang out here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. Okay. So we have this upper body tension. We have this lower body tension. When we are performing our squat, we need to create that total body tension the entire time. That's step 1. Before we move on to the next step, is it okay if we practice putting upper and lower together? Okay, so I'm gonna cue you in. I'm gonna cue you in from the bottom up. So feet are hip width distance apart. Toes are spread apart. Pressing pinky toes and big toes down. Externally rotating from the hips. Pulling upper inner thighs in. Shoulders down, shoulders back, rip your towel apart. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rest. Okay, so we need that throughout the squat. You with me? Let's talk about the breath. So when we are lifting kettlebells, we need to breathe from our diaphragm. And we talked about this in the last video, and it's something we're going to continue to talk about because it's one of those details that really matter. When we breathe in a kettlebell exercise, we have 2 different breathing patterns. We have one if we're doing something like a ballistic. A ballistic is a fast exercise. Think a swing, a snatch, a clean. If we're performing something that is slower, we call them grinds. A grind is going to be something like your deadlift or your squat like we're doing today, or something like a strict press. And it's going to get a longer exhale. Now, regardless of if we're doing a ballistic or a grind, we want to take a deep enough breath that our chest stays relaxed and our ribs begin to expand. And we want this expansion to happen from the sides as well as forwards and backwards. So you're going to take a deep breath in. And as you take this deep breath in, we want to feel the rib cage expand. Watch me, and then you're going to try it. Notice how my chest doesn't lift up and down, and I'm going to over-exaggerate that for you for a second. What we don't want is this. You see the difference? Now again, this is one of those things we got to practice. So I want you to find yourself in front of a window, in front of a mirror, in front of something so you can just watch yourself take a couple of breaths. And something that can be really helpful, take your hands, place them on your ribs. The other thing that can be really helpful, I'll demo this for you, is lying down. And when you lie down to find this kind of breathing, you can place your feet flat on the floor. Imagine you're wearing a belt buckle. Tip your belt buckle up so that your low back is in the floor. From here, hands go on top of your stomach. And you want to breathe deep enough that you can feel your hands lift. So you have some options. I'm going to give you a moment. Practice the breathing, and I'm going to check the comments. Any comments so far? All right. So as you're doing these deep belly breaths, just notice, what am I feeling? And what's it look like if you are in front of the mirror, in front of the window? Okay. So when it comes to performing a goblet squat, we want to take this deep breath in to feel the rib cage expand. And then as we exhale, we want it to sound almost like a snake hissing. The sound itself is TST. We want the pressure to be the same throughout. We want the exhale to last the full duration from being at the bottom of the squat to standing. And I want you to notice what happens to my core as I exhale this way. So just watch. Watch it again. Do you see how everything goes from expansion to this tight contraction? That's what we're going after. If you are using the right breath, you are going to feel a lot of support throughout your core. There's going to be this pressure that's coming out of your mouth. It's creating this pressure in your thoracic cavity, and it's helping to protect your low back doing this squat, and it's helping you to engage your core. One of the coolest things about hardstyle kettlebell technique is the fact that it really is a total body workout in one, because it requires you to keep everything tight and engaged throughout the exercises in order to move relatively heavy weight for reps. So with that being said, let's try to practice the breath. So we're gonna take that deep inhale, pressure on the exhale. Let's see if we can take an inhale for a count of 3 and an exhale for a count of 5. I go, you go. Deep breath in for 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Okay, your turn. Take a deep breath in for 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rest. Okay, how did it feel? What did you notice? And I'll say, if you're putting too much pressure down, if you start to feel lightheaded, just dial back the intensity. But this should be loud enough that if there's like an animal or a person with you, that they turn their head and they're just like, what are you doing? Okay, let's try it one more time. And then we'll pair the tension with the breath, with the breath. All right, inhale, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. Let's do it with our tension now. I'm going to cue you in from the bottom up, and then we'll take that deep breath in for a count of 3, exhale for a count of 5. We'll practice this 2 times in a row. Feet are hip width distance apart. I press big toes down. I press pinky toes down. I externally rotate from my hips. I pull upper inner thighs in. Shoulders down, shoulders back. Rip the towel apart. I have my total body tension. Deep belly breath in for 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shake it out. Okay. What did you notice? When you're doing all of that, whole body should feel tight and tense. As the exhale comes out of your mouth, you can feel the core really beginning to contract. Here we go, one more time. Feet are hip width distance apart. Big toes, pinky toes pressed down. Externally rotating from my hips. I pull upper inner thighs in. Shoulders down, shoulders back, armpits shut. Inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shake it out. Okay. So the reason we need to talk about this is because this is one of those things that if you are watching people demonstrating something like a goblet squat on Instagram, you see the pathway, you see the alignment, but you might not be able to see the tension they're creating. There might be an audio over. You might not be able to hear what they're doing with their breath. And this is the magic. These are two very basic details that allow you to lift heavy weight. If you don't have this, a lot of times the weight actually ends up feeling heavier than it really is if you had the tension. So moving forward, we need the tension, we need the breath. So when it comes to a squat, and I want to be really clear that this video in particular is for those who are learning how to goblet squat a kettlebell, who are interested in training with kettlebells. And the reason I bring that back up is because when we do a squat, some people will coach it hip dominant, other people will coach it quad dominant. It depends on the goal. Now, because in hardstyle kettlebell technique, we're already doing so many exercises that are focusing in on our posterior chain. So we're hitting hamstrings, we're hitting glutes for a lot of stuff. When I coach something like a goblet squat, I want to keep it knee dominant. I want my client, I want myself to really feel it in my quads. And that's because there is a difference between leading with your hips and coming back like this, almost like you're sitting to a chair, versus leading with your knees, and I'm gonna over dramatize this, and coming straight down like an elevator. That second one I just did, that's what we're gonna go after today, because I want you to feel your quads. Now, if you are somebody who maybe you have some mobility issues, maybe you have some injuries that have come up, and maybe leading with your knees doesn't feel really good in your body right now, that's okay. If you need to lead with your hips, go for it. But that's what we're gonna go after today, because these are what we wanna hit. When it comes to your goblet squat, before we even touch the kettlebell, let's just go through it body weight. Ideally, we want the feet to be hip width distance apart. For a lot of people, as we're getting started, especially if mobility is something that is a challenge you're working on, being a little bit wider will most likely feel more comfortable, and being slightly turned out will also probably be a little bit more comfortable. So I want to give you permission right now. You can be here. You can be here. You can be here. For the sake of your starting point, find a position that feels the most comfortable in your body. When we're at the top of our squat, before we begin the descent, we want to find ourselves in a very tight position. I want you to almost imagine being in a plank. It's the same as when we're at the top of a deadlift. As I'm here, I want to imagine I'm still wearing that belt buckle. And I'm trying to tip the belt buckle up so that I can feel engagement in my lower abdominals. My chest is lifted, but I'm pulling my ribs down so I can feel a contraction in my upper abdominals. So I'm in this very straight line. What I don't want to happen is this. This little bit of an arch. Is it going to be the end of the world for where you're starting? Probably not. But I want to encourage you to develop really strong habits right out the get-go. So we're going to find our abs at the top. From here, you're going to send your knees as far forward as you comfortably can. Once it feels like they can't go any further forward or you're feeling some weird pressure in the knees, stop. And then allow yourself to sink straight down as low as you can before coming back up and finding that abdominal engagement at the top. Ideally, when we are going into our squat, we're trying to break 90. So I want to find myself right around here. Now, if you have access to the mobility to go lower, go for it. The one thing we want to keep in mind is as we do lower down, instead of the belt buckle being tipped up, as I start to lower down, I want to think booty back. And we can also think of booty back kind of like twerk. We want to try to pop the booty. I start tucking it, I lower down, I pop the booty, I come back up. Now, if you are currently in a position where it feels like I just can't go that low, I want you in particular to play with a wider footprint. I want you in particular to play with turning your toes out and see if that helps. And if it feels like right now it's not doing a whole lot for me, that is okay. I would be curious to know why that is. My initial guess would be there's an injury or maybe there's some soft tissue work that needs to be done. If you want to talk in the DMs with me afterwards, I am more than happy to have that conversation with you. But we're going to move forward. So where am I trying to go? I start in my plank. I lead with my knees. I lower myself down. I can feel my quads. I've hit that 90. Booty is popped backwards. I stand back up. That's our pathway. That's our alignment. That's where we're trying to go. Okay? Now in the midst of this, we need our breath. We need our tension. Listen to the breath for a moment. Listen to the breath. I inhale down. Exhale. Sends me right back up. And you'll notice that exhale ends as that belt buckle tips up, and I have that full contraction throughout my abdominals. Are you with me so far? Okay. Now, let's grab our kettlebell. In order to get your kettlebell up into position, we need to do a transitional exercise. This is a high pull. Excuse me. This is a high pull. So the way we would set up for our deadlift is what needs to happen. So the kettlebell's right between our ankle bones. If you don't know how to set up for a deadlift yet, check out the video that we did together last week. That will be a long breakdown for you. The kettlebell starts in between my ankle bones. I have shoulders higher than hips, hips higher than my knees. I want my grip to be loose. I'm going to stand up like a deadlift, but really fast. Now, maybe you noticed my breath at the top was short. Anytime we move quickly, short exhale. Anytime we move slowly, longer exhale. So now the kettlebell is up in position. So I'm going to create my tension, and my hands are in a slightly different position than they were with the towel, but I'm still thinking shoulders down, shoulders back, and instead of gripping the kettlebell apart, I'm going to think about squeezing my armpits tightly shut. From here, I inhale as I lower, exhale up. Inhale, lower, exhale up. When I'm ready to set the kettlebell back down, still a loose grip, it drops straight down, and then the rest of my body follows. So, we're going to try it now. What's going to happen, we'll do 3 passes. As we do these 3 passes, I will give you a different detail to focus on. Keep in mind, when you're a beginner at anything, when you start receiving this information, it's normal if it feels like this. Just do your best, trust the process, one detail at a time, okay? Now, when we go through this first pass, I want you to just notice what muscles do I feel. When we're squatting, when we're keeping it knee dominant, we should feel our quads. We are going to feel glutes to an extent. When you get to the top position, I want you to be on the lookout. Do I feel anything in my abs? And do I still have that tension back behind my armpit? Okay? So I would encourage you, use something around testing size bell, maybe something a little bit lighter. You're going to aim for 3 to 5 reps. We'll shake it out. I'll give you something else to think about, and we'll progress from there, okay? All right, this first pass, let's focus in on our tension, okay? Step up to your kettlebell. I'll do this first one with you. We step up to the kettlebell. Kettlebell is in between my ankle bones. I find my hip hinge, shoulders higher than hips, hips higher than my knees. I'm creating my total body tension right out the get-go. Short exhale, stand up. Okay, from here, big toes, pinky toes, press down. I externally rotate from my hips. I pull upper inner thighs in. Shoulders down, shoulders back. I squeeze my armpit shut. Inhale as I lower, leading with my knees. Booty pops back. Exhale as I stand, belt buckle up. I can feel my abs. Inhale, lower. Exhale, up. Whole time, I'm externally rotating from my hips. I'm pulling my upper inner thighs in. I'm driving big toes, pinky toes into the ground. I'm squeezing armpits tightly shut. Okay, shake it out. How did that feel? What did you notice? What was it like to try to maintain your tension throughout the squat? What was it like to try to maintain your tension throughout the squat? And if you're thinking to yourself, there's a lot going on, let me try again. Let's do that. For those of you who want a second pass at feeling for the tension, that's gonna be what we do right now. And for anyone who's like, I feel good about the tension, on this next pass, can you focus in on your breath? Inhale down, long exhale, the full duration to standing. Yeah? Okay. Get ready. Step up to the kettlebell. Starts in between your ankle bones. Shoulders higher than hips, hips higher than your knees. When you're ready, short exhale, send it up. Okay? Find your tension. Big toes, pinky toes, press down. External rotation from the hips. Upper inner thighs, they pull in. Shoulders down, shoulders back, armpits shut. Leading with the knees, inhale as you lower, exhale as you stand. You're aiming for 3 to 5 reps. Do you feel that tension the whole time? Are you still externally rotating from the hips? Can you feel the armpits squeezing tightly shut? Can you feel the toes pressing down? If you're paying attention to the breath, can you hear it the full duration to standing? Set it down, shake it out. Nice job. Okay. If, when you're creating the tension, and specifically your lower body tension, if you are like going 100 and it's starting to feel like kind of cranky at your knees, dial back the intensity that you're putting into it just a little bit. And you can even try this for a second. There's a difference, now that we're aware of the tension, there is a difference between not having any tension and just going through the motion versus having the tension and moving slowly throughout the pattern. Does that make sense? Okay, let's do one more pass. And this time, I want you to pay close attention. What muscles do you feel yourself engaging? Again, when we're doing a squat, and when we're trying to keep it knee or quad dominant, we want to feel the fronts of our legs. Then we want to feel our glute, lats, abs. That's what you're on the lookout for. Here we go, last time, 3 to 5 reps. Kettlebell starts in between your ankle bones. Shoulders higher than hips, hips higher than your knees. Shoulders down, shoulders back, armpits tightly shut. Short inhale, deep, deep breath in, short exhale, stand up, do your high pull. Okay, find that total body tension, find your abs. Inhale as you lower, exhale as you stand. What do you feel? What's going on in your quads? What's going on in your glutes? What do you feel behind the armpits? What do you feel throughout your abdominals? And set it down, shake it out. Nice. Okay. That is your goblet squat. Now, if you are somebody who is brand new and you are looking to drill these kettlebell skills, once this video gets saved, comment the word gold below and I will personally send you the game plan for drilling your goblet squat. So when you take it into a training program, you know what it is you need to think about in order to do the exercise correctly and efficiently. So I hope to see you next week, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.